Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob
And
Hickey.
welcome to a special election edition of Foxborough Central. I am your host, Bob Hickey, thanking you for taking the time to join me and my guests as we talk about the upcoming school committee election. And welcome to my guest, Larry Thomas.
Thank you,
Larry,
Bob.
how are you doing today?
Doing very well, thank you.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come out and share with our viewers why you want to be a member of our school committee and your candidacy. Before we do that, Larry Thomas is, I feel like I've known you for
Long time,
in
very
so
long
many
time.
different capacities. On the advisory committee, you've served many times. You've actually been my guest on election night.
That's right.
Talking about upcoming town warrants. So
That's right.
you are, I guess, what I would call, maybe similar to myself, a
lifer.
town lifer, political
Yeah.
junkie. So
Yeah.
anyway,
I think public service is important.
well, you know, I was just
Yeah.
going to say that
Yeah.
there are some people who make it a point of contributing and giving. And
Exactly.
So thank you so much for doing that in the past, and thank you very much for stepping up and looking to run to fill the uncompleted seat that is vacant due to the resignation of Katie Adair, who moved out of town.
One-year
And
term,
so
that's right.
That is the seat that we're looking for right
Yes.
now, correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. So it's vacant right now. You're looking to run for it. Why do you want to do this?
So I think that, as you know, I've done a lot of different things in town because I really do believe that public service is important. But I think the most important thing that we do, the most important public responsibility that we have is to educate our children. And I think I bring some interesting skills to the table. I know an awful lot about budgeting and town finances, and you know I've trained at the feet of the masters, Randy Scollins and the Bill Yuknas, and in all 8 years that I spent on the advisory committee, I was the school liaison. So I've attended many school committee meetings, sitting on those hard chairs in the high school. So I think from a financial side, I bring something to the table, something that kind of adds to the mix that people currently have on the school committee. I also have a lot of expertise in educational technology. I work at Tufts University. I work in business intelligence and analytics. And it turns out that a lot of the technology that is used in college is the same technology that's used in K through 12. And so, I'm hands-on with a lot of that technology, so I think it brings an interesting perspective to the school committee. And one other interesting thing, one of the things that really kind of pushed me in this direction was my daughter, who would kill me if she knew I was talking about her, but she actually she just graduated from college as an engineer, works at Tufts University in the group that we sent our robotics teachers to from here in Foxborough. There's a group up at Tufts where they work at training teachers to teach robotics and STEM type courses. And so I get to see, so Jen's building software, she sits next to educational graduate students, and you know the stuff that she's doing and that I see that group doing, I just find incredibly exciting. And I'd like to think that maybe in the next couple of years we'd start to see some of that filter into the K through 12 ranks, and I'd like to be there to help facilitate that.
You know, it's awfully nice to be able to talk to people. That's one of the reasons why I love doing this program, is because when you mention these things, 5 things just popped in my head and really get me excited about education, about our school system, and about some of the things that are, I suppose, say, are trending, or the opportunities. And my son, who would probably also kill me if he knew I was talking, so I won't tell
Be
my
our
family.
secret,
if you
all
won't
right?
tell
It'll
your
be our
family, right?
secret.
All of you at home, shh, don't tell our families. But they do know you're running, right?
They do.
Oh, okay,
They do.
all right.
They're going to help me hold signs this
Well,
weekend.
that's secret
so,
south.
yeah.
So, okay. Permission is always a good thing to get. So how's the family doing?
They're doing very well.
I'm
Very
glad
well.
to
5
hear that.
kids, all graduated from college.
Wow.
Yep. As I said on Candidates Night, my wife and I are penniless now from putting all these kids through college.
But now that they're out of the house, you have plenty of time to be a member of this.
well, they're not all out of the house, but it's great to have them around.
That's
I really
great.
enjoy it. Yeah.
So I was just mentioning that my son was also on the robotics team, and it was such
Oh, really?
such
Oh,
an
yeah.
interesting process, and the competition was so. I know cool doesn't,
Yeah.
it's a nickel word, it's
Yeah.
not a college word, but it was just really cool to
Yeah,
see what they were
yeah.
doing and the things they were doing.
Yeah.
And he came back really energized and charged up about it.
Right,
So.
and they probably don't realize that while they're doing the robotics and all the fun competition, they're learning science and math and engineering and technology, and it's all woven in there in a way that's just a lot of fun to learn. So it's a different way to teach.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it so innovative and
Exactly.
cool.
Yes, it is cool. Yeah, yeah. And we've got 2 engineering classes that we teach in the high school. So there's a lot of things, a lot of interesting things that are going on in the school system that probably a lot of people don't realize.
It's a good time to educate folks about that. So while we do that, let's educate you about this guy right here. His name is Larry Thomas. He's looking to get your vote on May 4th at the town polls at the Ahern Middle School. When they open at 7 a.m. and before they close at 8 p.m., you should avail yourself of the opportunity as a citizen to go on down and vote, make your voice heard. If you want to find out about Larry before the elections, you can check him out on Facebook. He has a Facebook page. And I think the easiest way to find him is just to type in Larry Thomas for School Committee. And he'll pop up, he'll friend you, you can friend him. I don't know how Facebook works, but
I get a lot of help from my kids and from other people in town.
For people like me, a little bit older, who like the personal approach, you can reach out and call Larry if you have any questions, you want to offer him your support, maybe host a coffee, donations, anything else that goes into a campaign that very important. Call him at 508-954-1092.
0192.
0192, that's exactly what I said. Or you can also email him, let's see if I got this one right, at lpthoma, lptoma, and the number 2000.
That's
so it's
correct.
lptoma 2000 at yahoo.com. Hopefully you'll see that fly on your screen before our program is over. So, and if you miss it, of course, you can check us out at fcatv.org and look at the program, click on the links for video, and then click on the link for Foxborough Central, and you'll find him again. Larry is not a hard person to get a hold of over the years. I feel like I talk to you on a regular basis.
We see each other all the time.
And it just goes to the point that you make about community service and civic involvement. So one of the first times I got a chance to meet you and get to know you was back when I was a member of the Board of Selectmen, and we had an opportunity to appoint somebody to another seat that was unfilled. A member of the school committee had resigned to go meet a professional obligation. Right. And you were the one that, and I know I voted for you.
I appreciate that. We didn't know each other at the time.
We didn't know each other
at the time. That was the first time that we met.
But I remember back in the day that one of the things that truly struck me was your grasp of technology and the importance of upgrading our technology. And I'm going to give a 1-minute plug here. Back in the day, we were facing some challenges, and it was before we had integrated our IT approach. We were still very 1990s in the way we dealt with technology. And Randy Scollins, as our finance director, was a huge supporter of and became the driving force behind integrating our town's approach to technology. Something as simple on the town side as having your budgets prepared on the same program so they could speak to each other, which, if you think back, how ridiculous was it? But that was the reality back then. So when you were a member of the school committee, that was one of the things, the focal points that I remember you driving home to us as being a need. So let's talk about where we were and where we are now. Now your job is technology and integration, the educational process, and then where do we go? I love talking technology. Let's talk.
Yeah, for a long time, the schools and the town side had separate IT groups, which is kind of silly when you think about it. It's expensive. It makes things harder than it needs to be.
And from a business standpoint, you just lose that whole economy of scale approach. And
exactly.
It becomes
you're buying different things, and it makes it more difficult to integrate things. So today we have essentially one IT team.
And it's on the school side.
It is on the school side, which I don't know. I've never looked at other towns, but it feels like it's fairly innovative.
It feels right, though.
It does. It does. It absolutely feels right. And that's, in this town, and unlike a lot of towns that, I talk to a lot of other people, this town, the various departments, for the most part, get along and work well together. Particularly, Randy and Bill Yukna and the town manager, the superintendent, they get along very, very well. So they were able to bring this together, and I think it works really well. In the schools themselves, they're doing a lot of exciting things. They're putting high-speed wireless into the schools, which will allow them to then use things like iPads and I work at the college level, and bring your own device is the school doesn't supply any computers. Students show up with their own devices, and the school has to be able to operate with all those devices. And eventually it's going to be the same way in K through 12 in our local schools. Whatever device a student walks in with, that's what we're going to have to integrate with, and that's what they're going to be using. So the wireless was a key piece of that. But the wireless also allows us to, rather than locally installing software, like we all use Microsoft Office, right? And rather than installing that locally on your computer, Microsoft has a version of that runs out in the cloud on the internet, and it's Office 365. And so we're making that available to our students, to our staff, lowers the operational costs, just makes it much easier for everybody.
But it's also portable in that way.
Exactly, runs on any device. You can run, you can do some work in school, you can go home, you can finish it on your computer.
That's so key, that's
it is, and that's how people want to be able to work. That's how, students outside of school could always work that way. They knew how to use all this technology, and now the schools are finally catching up.
But it also makes our educational flow meaningful.
Absolutely.
And preparing them as opposed to not
right.
fully preparing them. And
That's
it's a
right.
great investment of technology dollars, because there is, and you mentioned about how the departments work together, and I'll go back to my day as selectman, but we always maintained a key commitment to capital investment dollars into school buses, yes. But we would cycle through, and I can't remember if it was a 3-year or 4-year cycle. But given the technology changes,
replace all the
who of us
computers.
at home has a computer that's more than 4 years old?
Right.
And that's a key piece. If you're going to be current, you got to stay current. You got to invest in that.
Right. But technology's, I think, is about to undergo a really rapid set of changes, and I think in 5 or 10 years you won't find that we have many general purpose computers in the schools.
Really?
We're going to have, I don't know whether we're going to have iPads, but I think that what you're going to have is you're going to have much less powerful computers, but they're going to run attached to the web, attached to the internet. And that'll make things, it makes things easier to operate, and they're much less expensive than a Mac or fully functional PC.
Isn't it interesting? I know that we're here talking to Larry Thomas about your candidacy for school committee. And again, I'll remind everybody that you can look him up on Facebook at Larry Thomas for School Committee. Just type it in, you'll find him. You can always call him at 508-954-0192, or you can email him at lpthoma in the number 2000 at yahoo.com. And I love talking about this, and it's rare that I get an opportunity to sit and talk, so apologize to the viewers, but this is my chance to talk, so I hope you're enjoying this. As we're talking about technology, who would have thought back in the day of Star Trek in 1966 or 1968 that we'd have the flip phone, and now that would be outmoded technology. Nobody has flip phones anymore. That the iPad, which is really the same thing that Captain Kirk was playing with, and I'm not being funny about the technology, but lasers and the communication stream the way it is now. That was then to today, so who knows what the future is going to be 5, 10. There's these new things, Google Glasses, and Apple just came out with a watch. And I know that just works off of a phone, but there's so much more that we haven't even visualized yet.
What a lot of people have forgotten is when we renovated the IGO school, that was the first time that we fully networked and we put computers in every classroom. The warrant article for that failed at town meeting. People just this is 1995. People just didn't believe that you needed to have computer technology in the classroom, and that was when I first got involved. A bunch of parents just thought, this is crazy. We need to have technology.
That's when we're still dialing up.
Exactly. So we all got together. We worked with the superintendent, and we got that warrant article passed. But it's funny to think back. Today everybody thinks we just need lots of technology.
And that wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago. Nope. But that the interesting thing is that. I pointed this out in candidates night, and that is that there's really three things that we do with technology. We teach children how to use technology. We teach first graders some keyboarding skills, and we're teaching older kids engineering using computers. But then we teach classes that are based around technology, so robotics and engineering. But it has a real technology bent. But the most interesting category of technology use is to use computers to influence teaching and learning, and that still haven't cracked that nut. I mean, that's kind of the holy grail. But it's because teaching is so difficult. That the student-teacher relationship is so it's just really difficult to do well, and to get technology to fit into that is quite difficult, and there's people working on that.
And yet that is a challenge, because you have to, generationally, it's a different world. Back when I was a young man and I had my first Atari, I thought, wow, this is cool, this is the end all. I just had my nephew and over with his family, and the little 2-year-old Micah had my phone, was going through it and thumbing through.
Infants with an iPhone. It's unbelievable.
It was scary. My wife and I were watching this, and how is he doing this? And it's like nothing. So, to us, what seems like a challenge, to him, it's going to be an expectation.
Yes.
We have to meet that challenge.
Right.
We cannot.
This is how
the
brain's going to be wired to learn this way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, in order for that kid to be challenged and to learn and to grow and become a leader, how does our school system keep up with that on the right side of the bell curve?
Well,
That's
I think there's
challenge.
I think you've got to be driven by the science behind it. There's a lot of research going on, and because you can end up making some pretty expensive bets. There's a lot of students in the schools, and the technology is not inexpensive, and you want to make sure that, as you're making decisions, that they're good decisions and they're based on, how people really learn, and there's a lot of research going on around how that happens with technology.
And I know we're running so out of time, and I apologize for bogarting the conversation on technology, but I just find it fascinating.
I do too.
And I'm glad to hear that. There's some other things going on in the schools. For the most part, I think the big news story these days is Common Core.
Yes.
And frankly, I'm not even sure I understand what Common Core is. Maybe you can give me a 2-minute summary.
Yeah, so I'll start back with, in 1992, Massachusetts passed a law, ed reform, and that started the whole Massachusetts curriculum framework and the MCAS.
Okay.
We all understand
MCAS,
that.
yes.
A lot of people don't realize that was a fairly difficult process. So it started in 92, and about 2002, it was just so difficult, and people were having such a hard time that they wanted to scrap it. They just wanted to get rid of it. But they stuck with it, and by 2010 or so, suddenly we were really starting to see the results, to the point where today, if Massachusetts was a country on its own, we would have one of the best educational systems in the world.
Really?
So that's using Massachusetts curriculum frameworks and MCAS. So
Because MCAS is just the test. The framework is the
MCAS is the
teaching.
assessment
Yes.
and the assessment vehicle.
I think
and
people too often say,
they
well,
bring the
MCAS
two
does this,
together,
but
right? Just like Common
exactly.
Core and Park, it's the same relationship.
Okay, good.
So about 2010, a group of governors got together and decided to put together another set of curriculum frameworks called the Common Core, and they almost immediately got, I think it was over 40 states. I can't remember exactly how many it was, but pretty much sight unseen, but with the enticement of some federal dollars, they all decided to go with this new, set of curriculum frameworks. And my only question is, we had something that really worked well. We were doing something that almost every other state in the union found almost impossible to do, to deliver just an absolutely top-notch education, as measured against some of the best countries in the world, as far as education was concerned. So and it was proven, but we're scrapping that, and we're moving to something that's not proven. And I just think we need to really think that carefully. I'm not.
Are we talking about Obamacare, or are we talking about Common Core?
We're talking about Common Core.
Okay, 'cause
I don't want to get. I'm running for school committee.
I thought we did healthcare really well. Okay.
No. So I think it's important, particularly. Other states don't have nearly as much to lose. Their educational systems weren't that good. Common Core is probably a big step up. But there's one real irony here, and I think it was just recently, the state of Nevada considered adopting the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks rather than Common Core, simply because it was proven to work.
It was proven. And I think, and I don't mean to make light of it, but I was serious when because Massachusetts had something, and whether people agree or disagree with it, it's proven.
Exactly.
And it's effective.
Right.
And as with any statistical analysis, it has to be measurable and quantifiable.
Right.
And that's what separates it from many of these other initiatives. It sounds great, fantastic, but can you prove that it works? And now we've got the longevity and able to show that it works.
And we were good at it, right? There was very little angst around the MCAS and curriculum frameworks. The teachers had done a great job adopting it. The students were used to the tests, and it was very rare that somebody didn't graduate because they didn't pass the test. But for one reason or another, we're walking away from that. So I just think it's...
So where is Common Core in Foxborough?
Where is Common Core? So I believe in about 2010 or 2011, we started adopting those frameworks. And
because of the state mandate,
yeah.
federal
Yep.
education dollars are tied into it.
That's right.
So it's not a matter the Foxborough School Committee made a decision.
That's
it's
right.
a matter that the state made the decision to
Yep.
continue accepting funding enhancements.
Right.
And this is the end result.
Right. Yeah, and I didn't, I wasn't really, until I decided to run for school committee, I wasn't paying any attention to this at all. And I'm a fairly involved person, right? I mean, I'm at a lot of school committee meetings.
That, yes.
And I just wasn't paying any attention to this at all. And then a group of parents in Foxborough brought in some people who were against the Common Core, but with a lot of data and a lot of thoughtfulness. It's not a knee-jerk reaction or anything. And I went to that, and I just found what they were saying was very interesting. There's a test. There's a test called the NAEP test. It's a sample of students in every state, and so you can compare where you are against all the other states, most of the states anyway. And what happened so we started in Massachusetts. We started implementing the Common Core in 2010, 2011. The test was given in 2013. Fourth graders in, I believe it was reading, showed a fairly precipitous drop in the results. We're still at the top, but we had the most to lose. And if you look at the NAEP site, you can see they sort the states by those who improve the most versus those who, go in the opposite direction. Massachusetts at the very bottom with the biggest drop in performance. And the question is that because of Common Core? No, we won't know. One data point doesn't make a trend, but we've never ever seen that kind of a drop in Massachusetts before.
As the saying goes, lies, damned lies, and statistics.
Yeah. So Governor Baker says he wants to take another look at it. A lot of state legislatures have started to talk about taking another look at it. I don't know what it would mean as far as, we've gone so far with implementing the Common Core, but I'd certainly like to have that conversation.
Sure.
I think it's an important conversation to have.
Great. And there's so many more conversations I'd like to have. I'd like to talk about the school committee budget and how it fits into the town framework and understanding economic realities with our school budget growth. Before we touch on that, and then we'll get the last word, I want to remind everybody we're speaking with Larry Thomas, candidate for the open seat for our school committee. Let's talk economics.
Yeah, so that's an area where I'm fairly comfortable with, having been on the AdCom for 8 years. The school budget this year is up 4%, and the vast majority of that is to bring forward the salaries from one year to the next. There's teachers who get longevity increases. There's teachers who get raises, and then there's a little bit where we're going to add another math specialist, which will be one in each of the elementary schools, which is great, and a technology specialist. Because with all this technology, it's important that somebody be out there working with the teachers so that we can use it to best effect. But we're also eliminating 2 teachers, a math and an English teacher, because there's so many students now taking courses like robotics that there's only so many slots during the day. So if you start an important new program like robotics and a lot of students migrate to that leaves other classes without students in it. So I know a lot of people are critical of the schools because they say, positions are never eliminated even though school enrollment is way down. I mean, it's always a tragedy when positions are eliminated, but at the same time, I think it's the economic reality and the schools are seeing that.
But it's healthy to stay current.
It is, absolutely.
And what company Kresge's doesn't exist anymore. They didn't stay current.
Right.
And now it's Walmart, and they are current.
Yep. But we're going up 4%, and you wonder, well, how can that be? And people think, well, with Proposition 2.5, how can we be going up 4%? And it's because of new growth, economic growth in town. And what I really believe that the school committee, but the schools themselves depend so heavily on economic growth, because just essentially level service the budget requires 3.5 to 4% increase. And if we want to do things on top of that, even just a small number of things on top of that, we just absolutely are critically dependent on that economic growth. So I think the school committee needs to be a little more involved in, say, the master planning and how we're going to manage all the new, the sewer flow, which could be an important new asset in town. I'd like to see the school committee get more involved in that. You know, as I said on candidates night, you know, the decisions that are made today are going to really largely determine the schools that we have tomorrow. So I think that's an area that, you know, I'm not afraid to go to meetings. I'll stand up and talk and give my ideas, and I think that's a role that I can fill.
Well, it sounds like a role for a leader, and it sounds like the school committee would be well served by having you on. If you folks at home agree, I know that you'll go to the polls again on May 4th. Vote for Larry Thomas for school committee. One last time, you can look him up on Facebook, Larry Thomas for school committee. Call him at 508-954-0192, or you can email him at lpthoma2000@yahoo.com. Larry is running for school committee, right, looking for your vote. And for those of you who may have forgotten, I can't believe you would, be May 4th at the Ahern Middle School. Polls open at 7 a.m., close at 8 p.m., at which time I hope you'll join me and the volunteers here at Foxborough Cable Access as we bring live election results to you. Until then, I know that you'll be thinking about this election and all that Larry has said. Larry, you get the last word.
All right, thank you, Bob. I just want to say, you know, I've been associated with town government in one way or another for almost 20 years. I think I have the energy and the drive and the know-how to make an impact on the school committee right away if I'm fortunate enough to be elected. So I ask people for their support. But however you're going to vote, please come out and vote on May 4th. It's just very, very important. Thank you very much.
And I hope you've enjoyed our special election coverage for Foxborough Central. On behalf of all the volunteers here at Cable Access, thank you to Larry Thomas for joining us today.
Thank you, Bob.
Appreciate your time. And if you've missed any piece of this program, want to capture it again, you can always see it on this local channel or look us up on the web at www.fcatv.org. We love to have you watch us. We love to have you volunteer with us, and we love to have you back again. Until next time, Foxborough, have a great day.